I'm going to give you a little bit of my background because it shows a bit of the bias that I have coming towards this issue, and then what happened afterwards when we moved to a new community. So I grew up in Richmond. My degree is actually in agriculture, but I didn't come from a farming family. And Neil and I worked all over the world, and then decided after I got dengue, Neil got chickenpox, to come back to, as an adult, not fun, to come back to Canada and try and use some of the experience we had working in food security, in the environmental movement. Very soon after I came back, I was working for a company that you might know back from when it was called Territorial Seeds Canada, and now West Coast Seeds, but at that time, fresh in the community, wanting to give back. And BCARA heard of me, BCARA, if any of you are certified with them, and asked me to join their certification committee. So I got a very crash course in the way that organics works from the back end, having to look at other farmers' files. And it was great because I wasn't farming, didn't know anybody, no biases in the community, and I was just able to say, you kind of forgot something, and be as unbiased as possible. But very quickly, my indoctrination into the organic movement was from the side of certification. Well, of course you certify. And then as I wanted to get into production for myself, I began spin farming. Does everyone know what spin farming is? Where you're farming people's front and backyards, trying to make a living out of it. Small pot intensive is what it stands for. And we primarily marketed through a CSA, but there were times in the summer where we had excess produce, and we wanted to take that to market. So is anyone here from Vancouver Farmers Market Society? Yay, Robin is. So at that time, if you don't remember, Robin, we had a trial Gastown Farmers Market.
It was before my time.
Okay, good. I can talk about it then. But under the umbrella of the Vancouver Farmers Market Society, it was a given, because I believe you have that policy, that you don't label your product as organic unless you're certified. And I kind of assumed, of course. I mean, that was unknown, and that's just what we did. And when people came to our stand, we just explained that we're not certified. We follow the rules, but we're spin farming, and they just love that. Oh my God, this came from someone's backyard, and this was grown just down the road. So, that's the way it worked. When we moved to the Comox Valley, we went from 3,000 square feet to 26 acres. I mean, it's still kind of blowing my mind. But we have all this luxury of land, and we began coming to the farmers market with the garlic scapes, and very quickly, even before we started production, I started the paperwork with IOPA, the Island Organic Producers Association, and so we began that paperwork. It was just always a given. And then I started coming to market and meeting other vendors, which is super important, and found that, oh great, you're organic, you're another organic grower, great, who are you certifying with, and how are you, and you get the, oh yeah, no, I'm not certified. Okay, and so we just chat about practices, and quickly found out, okay, you're doing some, and you know the politics, you don't want to call anybody out on some of the stuff, but wow, that's not really allowed in organic. Okay, nice to meet you, but quickly figured out, okay, there's a handful of certified organic growers at this market who are actually certifying. So for me as a new vendor, it was really unclear how do I label my product. So I approached our market manager and said, what's the policy around the use of the word organic? And Vicki was pretty straight up, yeah, we don't have a policy, but you should make one. And okay, so I took that on in the fall, and I researched, I put a call out on the market list, I don't know if any of you remember me doing this, and said, can you please send me what your policies are on labeling of organic? And I collected a few from across BC. I approached the board of the Comox Valley Farmers Market and said, I really think that you should install or enact a policy on labeling. And here's why. Yes, clarity for vendors of what they can and cannot say. Better clarity for the customer, because I had a lot of people coming up to my market stand. For those of you who don't know what feed prices are like on Vancouver Island, one bag of certified organic chicken feed is $23. Anyone use 25 in certain places? Regular, non-organic, what, 12, 13? So huge difference in cost, right? And so customers were like, well, why is your organic egg $6.50? Their organic eggs are only $4. And I'd have to like go through the whole thing. Well, you better ask them what they're feeding, because ours are certified organic, non-GMO. I don't know what they're feeding, but if they are feeding organic, they are giving away their eggs, because even at $6.50, we can't make a profit. Like we're even, right? So there was a lot of, confusion in the marketplace around labeling, pricing. Why is that costing so much more? And then I asked them, I asked the board, what would happen if, God forbid, someone claimed organic status and maybe they themselves weren't spraying, but maybe their buffers were not what they should be, and there was drift that came onto their lettuce, someone got ill at the market, crisis management, what would be your liability? Because you've allowed for product to be labeled a certain way. And unfortunately, like, the market is a venue, right? And what's the level of responsibility and liability of the board? And so that was kind of oh, you don't know about that. So the board was actually on board with this whole idea, and then they said, you should take it to the members. And you know what? As the newbie, I kind of figured this was going to happen. I got a kind of, trial by fire, throw me to the wolves, fine, okay? And I don't know about you, but are there, probably in other markets, there are some very vocal vendors with opinions about organic and non-organic. No, only ours, right? So I having been to members' meetings where there's resolutions since then, I quite frankly don't know what happened. The stars aligned. Certain people were ill that day. But I put it out there. I said, here's me. I didn't even kind of do what I should have done, is go around to all the vendors and figure out what is everybody talking or what are you thinking. I didn't do that. I just said, look, I'm new. Can you, I need more clarity. Why does everyone get to use this word when we're paying for this? We're being checked. You guys aren't checking. So if you're allowing their produce to be sold as organic, who's checking them? And so, we had some heated discussion, but it passed. And nothing ever passes at an AGM in the Comox Valley Farmers Market. But it happened. And fabulous, great. Then it was upon poor Vicky to enforce, right, as the market manager. And I'm sure you have stories of some of the grumbling and things that have happened since then. But at least everyone knew there was a new rule, okay? And some people had to change banners, put tape over them, and, sorry, but we were really, the certified organic growers really tried to say, if you need help with your paperwork, we're happy to help you figure out how to do this. But, it kind of, no one knew came into certification, and okay, but then it was clear who's certified, who's not. So, that's our story at the Comox Valley Farmers Market. And so far I think it's been pretty good. Sometimes we get new people who aren't regulars at the market who pop in when certain fruit is in season, and they didn't they don't read all of the rules, and they sometimes label. So it comes up as an issue from time to time. I'm not going to talk about the new provincial stuff that's happening right now, but we can talk about that later. I'd like to give Lorne some time to talk about his story, and then I'd love to open it up to everybody else and see what everyone's thinking, what questions you have, and then maybe we can get into some heated, maybe not so heated discussion. Yeah, okay. All right, take it away.
Thank you. So, hello everybody. Arzeena has such a nice calmness about the way she talks that she can help me get me at my feet. So, I guess going back to how we got into farming, my wife and I, who I don't know if she snuck in here or not, she may. We bought a piece of raw land, thought we didn't quite know what we were going to do with it. We had some dogs. We got fencing in. I did, I think, the regular male thing. She wanted to put a garden, and I said, yeah, I'll build you something, and I never did. So the garden started, and I thought, whoa, that's just like, that's gravel, or nothing's going to grow. And we started having a really good garden. I thought, well, that's kind of neat. It evolved from that 8 years ago to us now participating at the Qualicum Beach Farmers Market. This is our second winter being a part of the market. It's the second winter that the Qualicum Beach Farmers Market has gone all year, the same as James. You guys now are going for 50 weeks of the year, and that's where the Qualicum Market's at, which provides a huge opportunity for lots of farmers, especially in this area, to provide that for their communities, and that's what we're going to strive to do. How we ended up getting involved with wanting to be certified, we're in our transition period, which will end in July, and we're through IOPA, so we're looking forward to that day. And we've been beside a vendor who is certified organic. She's been at that market since the inception of the market, and I believe that goes back to 1998 is when 6 or 8 farmers first collaborated and found a spot to get rid of their produce. She has been an immense help, not only in giving us information and teaching us how to farm, because our backgrounds are not farmers. I, with reluctance, will tell you that most of my life has been spent in industry that's been very detrimental to the world, and I think probably my own health to some point, in terms of commercial fishing. We know how the commercial fishery is sort of sitting now. A short stint with mining, and then I spent the rest of my adult life as a faller, which totaled 19 years in the bush around BC, doing pretty much the opposite of farming. I mean, there isn't really too much benefit from cutting down the old growth trees. So the last 2 years of that, I was ridiculed immensely by my coworkers, because my backpack usually ended up being heavier when I came out of the bush at the end of the day than it was when I went to work in the morning, and I'd have plants and sacks of dirt and all kinds of things in there because I couldn't find dirt like that on our property. So always the talk of the crummy. But through recognizing, as Arzeena had spoke, everybody has different farm practices, and I don't believe that a certified organic product is necessarily better than an uncertified. That's not the goal of why Cindy and myself chose to be certified. What we wanted to do was be able to have our customers have some assurance that when they came to our booth and bought something, they didn't have to question whether we weren't maybe making our mortgage payment that month, or we had a couple extra bills to pay and we were trying to squeeze a few extra dollars out of our advertising. And this is my opinion, and I don't believe this to be true across all of the farmers markets or the industry, but I like to have the clarity that when I pay someone money that I've worked hard for, I want to know that I'm getting what I'm paying for. And I want my customers to also feel that same level of satisfaction. Now, I might get shot by someone for saying this. The certified organic bodies that we looked into, and in fact, we didn't look into them all. We chose IOPA because our sort of farm market mentor was with IOPA, and we thought that was a good route to go with. Some of them have different policies than others, and I think they all have room for improvement. And I think that's a contentious issue amongst people that are deciding whether to go certified or not. And for us, it basically came down to knowing that our customers would be able to realize that there was somebody else, a third party outside of the group, looking at our product and our farm practices and our inputs and making sure that we are doing what we say we're doing, and we're not leaving that window of opportunity open to cheat the system. And I don't like using that word, but I can get sort of emotionally wound up and I get angry about it at some points, but I'm not as calm as Arzeena about talking to people when an issue comes up.
I just yell at my husband when I go home.
Yeah. Well, I get my shirt pulled by the wife when I'm already yelling at someone. But what my experience was with a person, and I kind of questioned it as it came up, but the farming practices were growing a product the same as which we grew, and we weren't at a market at this time. This is a mutual agreement where we had gotten together and we were just talking about the general market of being able to sell whatever product you were growing. As that person had come to our place, we walked around and we were looking at different things, and the one thing that had come up was a potting soil. Now, because I wasn't really familiar with exactly how to mix up the right amount of peat and the right amount of perlite, we were sourced and using what they call a Sunshine No. 4 mix, which has an OMRI approval. So I thought that's pretty cool. A friend of mine runs Station Farm and Feed in Coombs. Him and his dad have had it for a lot of years. So when I asked about it, they sourced it, they brought it in. That was great. It's still more costly than making your own, so we're not doing that anymore. But that was sitting there. The words out of the person's mouth were, "Oh wow, that's expensive." I said, "Yeah, I know. I'm the one that pays the bill. I know exactly what it is." His next words were, "Oh, well, yeah, I just get spent dirt dropped off at my place." And I thought, spent dirt. I know, I'm going to pretend I know a little bit about organic farming. So I don't understand what spent dirt is, because the way I know it, the more you use it, the more you grow in it, the better it's going to become for your successive crops. The spent dirt was soil, known as soilless potting media, that come from a medical marijuana facility. And I
should have had lots of nutrition.
Well, yeah, but amongst other things, which are probably fairly problematic. And being from Qualicum, I have the great opportunity of knowing a lot of people I grew up with from Lasqueti, so I'm sort of privy to the information. And they're not shy about it, so it's great. That was a major thing to me, and I was like, so wait a minute, we're selling the similar products, we price our stuff similar, but yet you're probably doing a lot of things that I wouldn't do for myself, and I really wouldn't recommend anyone else doing it. And it was being combined with compost from a municipality. And I questioned that too, because I said, even though it's compost and it's going to be pathogen free, I spoke to some people that I consider to be fairly intelligent in the scientific field, and I don't know much more about than the secondhand conversation with them, was that a lot of the things that they have no control over what goes into, say, green bins or whatever other municipalities in the province use, whether it's prescription drugs, non-prescription, hormone, all these things, they have what they call half-lives. Now, I know if I counted everybody in here, that would be the number I say that's more intelligent than me, and probably being able to figure out what that means. But it doesn't break down quickly enough that it isn't an issue the second time around in its natural process or where it gets taken up. That all didn't sit well with me, and so that was another called the nail in the coffin as to why I wanted to be doing something like this and initiating the difference between people who are being open with their books to having somebody come and verify their processes and look at their inputs, and being allowed to use the word certified organic or just organic, because as Arzeena pointed out, big gray area. It's pretty tough when that other producer can call his stuff organic and yet we're not certified yet, so we're not using the term certified organic. And up until we even started our transition period, we chose not to use the word organic, and that was basically out of our own respect for our neighbor. But it doesn't set a very clear message to the customer, I don't think, from the farmer's market point of views either. There needs to be some consistency. And we passed our organic policy last spring at the AGM. The same thing, the stars, the heavens, I think
It rained so bad.
I did the rain dance, which I'm Scottish, it doesn't count for anything, but something worked, somebody did it, and it thundered. And but we still had a good turnout of people, and the people that did turn out were the ones that previously, I think, were involved with helping turn it down. It had been voted down 3 times, I think, in the past, 2 for sure, and possibly 3 times, which seemed ridiculous. I couldn't understand that, and I know that there's a lot of misconception out there, which hopefully we can address through questions later about costs and things like that. But my hope is that everybody at some point understands and hopefully can decide to side together, because that's still something that I see, even though I'm very new to this, I still see a very big divide between uncertified and certified farmers, and until everybody really comes together, it's going to be tough to improve an already existing system or even create a working model, which I've been hearing about in peer review, voluntary neighbor. I'm not sure how it works. My opinion, again, is I don't really think that's the way to go. If we're all striving to provide good, healthy food for our own communities, then it would really make sense for us to all work together and take the machine of certified organic and improve it, if that's what everybody thinks it needs. So other than that, I'm not going to tell you too much more about me, but I would, out of curiosity, like to see a show of hands for everybody who's a part of a market that has the coupon program as part of your market. So almost a half and half split. Yeah, 2 more. No, we win. No. So yeah, count twice. That'll be perfect. So maybe I'll invite you back up, Arzeena, and I don't know if you have anything to add or expand on.
Well, I guess part of, for those of you who are not in the certification program and maybe aren't aware of kind of maybe hurdles is a bit of a strong word, but you know how strict it is to be certified organic. I mean, it all starts with the soil, managing the soil in a way that's beneficial, adding every year. Vancouver Island does not have a large number of farms that we can source manure from. We have a lot of dairy farmers in our area, but unfortunately, because the majority of our dairy farmers feed their cattle GMO corn, it means that their manure either has to be hot composted, and they have to be monitoring that, or it has to come to us quite fresh and we hot compost it, because the requirements are quite stringent. It must be 140 degrees Celsius for 3 consecutive days, turned, and then 140 again for 3 consecutive days. And I have heard stories on the island of other dairy growers who have applied their own manure onto their cornfields and have gotten GMO canola come up in their fields. And then what happens? Well, they're using Roundup on the corn, and the canola doesn't die because it's GMO too. It is very possible for genetic contamination to come through manure. So this is why we have this really stringent rule about sourcing manure. It comes down to that. Certified organic seed. So coming from the seed industry, I'd worked with West Coast Seeds in the 90s when the organic seed movement was minuscule. Salt Spring Seed was around, Stellar Seed was just starting, but there was nothing available commercially for growers. Well, the organic industry finally said, in BC at least, look, you just have to source organic now. We won't be able to move this movement forward until you get really strict. So what the rule is now, you must show 3 attempts at three different sources to find the variety that you're looking for. If you don't find it organic in 3 different attempts, then yes, you can use non-organic seed. But I know it sounds mental, but we now have high mowing seeds in Vermont, entirely organic, certified organic seed source. We now have a BC Seeds Co-op of certified organic growers as well. The intent, like the movement itself, has really helped everybody, because when you have rules that you have to follow, well, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You swallow that, and yes, the cost of seed is substantially more when you go certified organic, but it's the cost of doing business. And I think we, in turn, help the entire community when we move forward like that. I mean, sourcing, the Sunshine mix was a really good example, because that was never available in organic form about 10 years ago.
And it isn't more expensive.
Yeah.
It's the same price. They just need to know that people want it and they'll bring it in.
Yeah.
Does it have a wetting agent?
No, it's approved by Amara, and I can't off the top of my head remember exactly how the ingredient list is on there, but at the place where I get it from, obviously they have a whole bunch of other company products, and you can sit and compare them. Now, it looks like the same ingredients, but they're written in a different way, and so they're obviously sourcing it from somewhere else, or the inputs for that have a record, a pathway. There's a paper trail they can prove it's not coming from a contaminated source. It's following the proper environmentally sustainable procedures to help with the whole situation.
You don't have to confuse me about organics. I've been in it,
Yeah.
before it was even an option. But what does concern me, and you mentioned it earlier, that there is no standard. Different certification agencies have different rules, and it's, for me, that's a major problem.
I'm going to address that, because I'm going to dispel it to a certain extent. So every single certifying body in Canada must follow Canadian organic standards. There is one standard across Canada. It's basically what we call the bare minimum, right? Everyone must meet that bare minimum. Now in BC, we have regional certifiers, as well as certifiers who will allow your product to cross either provincial or national boundaries. Those ISO certifiers have another level of certification. IOPA on the island, we have certain rules that apply to the island as well. So, but everyone is a bare minimum that must follow Canadian organic rules. Otherwise, you lose your certification. Mary, did I say that properly? So everyone knows Mary Forsbauer. So Mary's chair of COABC.
And basically, in order to call yourself organic in Canada under the CFIA, Canadian Federal Inspection Agency, you must meet the organic standard across the country. Right now, BC is not legislating the word organic. We are in the process of working with the government to protect consumers and protect agriculture in having the word organic legislated, that you cannot sell a food product as organic unless you're in a certification program. And so the standard across Canada is the same. Anybody like IOPA may have a higher standard that they want to have withheld.
Like treated fence posts in IOPA, very
And treated
very
fence posts right across Canada are not allowed. I'm just trying to think of something. Biodynamics, for instance, does not allow blood and bone meal, which is allowed in organic agriculture. In, I think, Supas and Okanagan, they still require their producers to have 5 years of in a program of transition before they can be called certified again. So 6 years before you can use the word certified.
Well, some, if I may, some agencies allow that biodegradable mulch, others don't.
Right now, there's actually a, inputs, organicinputs.ca tells you what is allowed on the Canada Organic, through the Canada Organic Standard. If it's allowed on that standard, then it's allowed generally in organic agriculture in Canada. However, any certifying body can say, we won't allow our producers to use, for instance, blood and bone meal in the case of biodynamics. There's an insecticide that is allowed in the organic industry that I think there's 2 certifying bodies who don't allow it. But it's allowed to be used in the organic industry. So, basic minimum, the standard has to meet the Canada standards. And if you're caught, the challenge that we have in British Columbia is if you're in a certification body that's not accredited nationally, CFI won't come in and do any policing. Or they won't police people who are selling just in British Columbia. So if the guy selling next to you at the farmer's market is only selling at the farmer's market, it's up to us as consumers and as farmers, not as organic farmers, but as farmers, to challenge those people who are saying they're organic when they're not.
And I think that's the hard part,
And
right?
and I mean, I come up against it all the time. My eggs are organic, my chickens run around outside. What do you feed them? Where do you buy your feed? I buy it at the co-op. When did they sell organic feed? It's organic by default because they're running around outside. So it's about teaching and helping people to understand what organic means.
And I think the idea, I mean, I came across this too. I have certain vendors who don't speak to me anymore because I'm the one that caused the problems, right? What we're hoping to see now, and you may have seen this in the news, is that the province is looking at regulating the word organic. And what I feel is that this takes the pressure off us as being the policing agents and the bad guys. And everyone now provincially must follow the same rules. However, it's not going to happen instantaneously. 2 years, maybe?
Two at least.
At least.
And
Okay.
I just want to say one other, I think Ms. Lane wants to say
Yeah.
something, but I want to bring something up.
Sure. Vicki?
I just have a question about the certification process. So if you're growing on Vancouver Island, say, do you have to be certified by IOPA?
No.
Or can you be certified by COABC? And how do...
Okay, so COABC is the umbrella body. They don't certify anyone. They
Okay.
certify the agencies, like
That's
the
certified?
right.
Okay.
So on Vancouver Island, most growers are either IOPA certified or PAX, or biodynamic. Sorry. And so generally, those are the 3 that operate on Vancouver Island. You could go to, I guess, one of the other. Becerra.
Valley.
Yeah.
We would prefer that you stay within
The region. Yeah.
within those agencies that are certifying within BC. There are some that are certifying that are coming in from Saskatchewan and
Yeah,
the
that's
United
another.
States, but we would prefer that people are
Yeah.
working within the province.
So yeah, there's obviously leniency of like who you want to choose to be your certification body.
And I'm willing to talk to anybody
Yeah.
about that. The one thing I want to say is I started selling at a public market before farmers markets were the groovy thing. And I was the only organic producer at that market. And I had a conventional producer who was on the board come to me and say, Mary, so-and-so is coming in calling themselves organic, what should we do about it? And I said, that's up to the board. I'm certified. I would like to see that only certified is allowed to call organic, but that's in self-interest. The board met without me there, and they made the decision. And the reason they made it was they said they wanted to protect agriculture because they felt, and which is what I have said to BCA Council, and I said it to the minister, how many ever we've had, that organic, people who say they're organic or not organic, don't hurt the organic industry as much as they hurt all of agriculture. Because when you say you're not organic and you're using treated seed, you're using all of the, a lot of the stuff that is not allowed in organic agriculture, and you're selling beside somebody or selling your product into the marketplace as organic and it's not, the conventional guys are getting hurt because they're quite often growing exactly the same way. And their peers are throwing them under the bus. So it's not in self-interest of organic producers that we want to see this legislation. It's for consumer protection and also for the protection of agriculture in BC.
Do either of your markets allow any of your vendors to say or advertise something like organic practices, which is, I've heard common, for those people who aren't organic but they want to say that they are
Yeah.
doing something?
So none of this pertains to verbal conversations. So when, vendors are speaking one-on-one to their clients, there's no way you can police that. And I think you're free to say that I use organic practices because then could be questioning there. But if it's anything is written in advertising, brochures, signs, that's what we're talking about in terms of marketing.
And they can't use the word organic practices in those terms?
No.
And Qualicum, the position that we've taken is that it's using the word organic. Unless you're certified, you're not to use the word because, and this is maybe me, again, in my opinion, being pushy, but it seems undermining that I won't allow you to hang a sign up, but if every person asks you, and then the reason was because we used to get asked all the time, and my answer was, well, the question was, I don't care about certified, are you organic? Well, you know what, if I had a mortgage to pay and a bunch of kids to feed, I might lie to you and tell you that it is, because I'm exchanging my product for your money. That's the name of the game when you're selling something. If I was giving it away for free, I have nothing to gain by lying to you. So there's great salespeople and there's bad salespeople. I'm a bad salesperson, but I try to be a very honest person, and I want people to be honest with me. So I'm just trying to create a playing field that I would like to play on.
Well, I'm hoping now that the province is stepping in and getting involved, that will be the regulating function. However, it does mean that those markets that don't have a policy in place, you now have a couple of years to come up with a policy that your members can accept and adopt. And I highly encourage you to get started on that. And I'm happy to share the wording that we used at Comox Valley. Maybe Lorne, are you okay to share the Qualicum Beach one? Because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can use some of the language that we've used, but you don't want to be caught being forced to have a policy. You've got a couple of years to kind of bring everybody up to speed.
This is actually a different question, but
Say, what we've done at Artisan Markets is we've encouraged our producers to say, certified organic if you're organic. If you're not organic, you may not say organic. However, you can say grown without the use of herbicides, grown without the use of chemical fertilizers. We do not, we're really working hard on the no spray. We say, I mean, as an organic farmers are spraying all the time. It's just what they're spraying is not toxic. So what we're really encouraging our producers to do, and we're educating our consumer, is basically that you want to say grown without the use of, or grown using, like, I'm just trying to, like if you're using,
Sustainable practices.
Yes, I've seen products that are on the market now that may have certain organic ingredients, but then canola oil, and it drives me insane because people don't read the ingredients. They see organic on a label, and there are rules around prepared food and processed food. And COABC is actually coming up with a toolkit. We just got the funding for processors, so a toolkit should be ready before the end of the year for a processor to work through the whole process of becoming certified organic.
During the summer, during the program coupon, our health authority, Vancouver Island Health Authority, had asked, they were our partnering group, which everybody has to have one. They had asked the market if a farmer is willing to show up and talk to some of the people that were involved with the programs that were able to get the coupons. So when we did show up, I believe it was post and prenatal moms, and there was a seniors group of some sort, and those were the people that are getting handed the coupons, which was great because we're seeing new faces at the market. It was awesome. We showed up, and when we started talking to them about different farm practices and how the use of the word organic in BC is being used, there was a lot of open mouths and things, because these are new moms wanting to protect these babies with, and you know, the new ones that haven't come out yet. But you know, the developing part of it, they were all very, very concerned about the inputs that are going into it. And when we had talked about it, we just said, you know what? You can't discredit one person from the other. You just have to ask the right questions. If you don't feel like asking the right questions to get to the bottom of it, there's a simple solution. Just go to the ones that already have the certification, and you kind of dance around all the question asking, really. So.
Now you see that ask the right question, but this is the issue we're having at our market. Like I'm a farmer's market manager. I go around and I visit the farms and I talk to the farmers, and we sit down and I really get in depth into their growing practices. And some of them that are these, you know, quote unquote conventional farmers, they use a lot of methods that are very natural and are good. But when they have a lineup of folks and people are just peppering them with like, are you organic? No. And then they don't have time to sit down and have the really awesome, in-depth conversation that I've had. So I can go on their behalf and I can advocate that, you know, no, actually I've been to their blueberry fields and they don't like lay things on top and it's all fine. But like they, at the market stage, they just don't actually have that time to have this really meaningful thing. So when you're saying like, okay, these guys are certified organic and then nobody else, like I need to find somewhere to even the playing field so that the folks that are conventional or non-organic don't get vilified for not being able to go through that process because they use different methods as well.
So one way that this has been brought up, that markets as a whole may be able to address that, and this is something that was suggested to me, so I asked about spreading the word, and they were happy for me to do that. The certifying group of farmers, and I'll say at Qualicum, they have that voice of the certification for everyone that's choosing that route. The farmers that aren't choosing that route for whatever the reasons or decisions are, that's fine. The Qualicum Farmers Market is going to enact a book. It will have in it a disclosure statement from a farmer, if they choose to fill that out, that will give what their farming practices are. They can fill that out at their convenience, and they can sign it, and they can have that at the manager's tent for anybody that wants to look at it. But it's something that the farmer is responsible for, that is written in that, and all the market is going to do is provide that as a platform for the public.
We all agree that labeling is where we need to be going for the benefit of our consumers at the end of the day, and for the farmers. The reason why we're here for a lot of us is we want to see some sort of standard coming up. But one of my concerns with the new legislation is around, you know, there's the organic label and then there's everything else, right? Now we've got a fantastic group of people here, and you know, maybe we need to have a forum to really, you know, I think a lot of good regulation can come from within. If we self-regulate ourselves, you know, in a labeling structure that our consumers can see from one market to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, they're all using the same system. And that could be as simple as, I don't know if we, you know, like I said, I like to move away from just the organic and then everybody else. You know, I think 2 labels is not enough. I don't think that we need necessarily 10, but maybe we should have a few different definitions for a few different styles of practices. Now, when it comes to an actual market management perspective, when you guys are organizing your markets, maybe it's as simple as having that word with that definition next to it, and it can be, you know, it can be a tick box next to it for the farmer, it can be the manager that checks that off or whatever, so they fall into that category. And then you can apply these labels to each stall at your market, and you can have a legend at the market manager's tent. And if that's the same throughout the province, I think that's what we need, is we need clarity, because I don't want to see Victoria Market, Duncan Market, you know, each market have their own system. It's so confusing. And if we can maybe establish something like this, we could be a leader for the nation.
Yeah.
And then you, Amir.
So I think at our market, I really appreciate vendors being really transparent about their practices. So when someone puts, you know, GMO-free eggs, it's like it's starting conversations with consumers also. Like, what does that mean? They know. And I think now we're at a point too where a lot of consumers, especially consumers at farmers markets, who are generally kind of more aware of food practices, when they see like grown without chemical fertilizer, for instance, or something like that, there's more understanding there. So for me, that is kind of the gradient, and like those are the different labels that people can use. And I don't know about standardizing them, just because it seems like an extra thing when you on the application. It seems like another kind of bureaucratic step, sort of like another verification. Like, how would that be followed up on? But so far, I really haven't had any problems with this. And there are conventional growers, and it says tomatoes, whatever, $2, $1.50 a pound. And then there's the organic growers, that's certified organic tomatoes on all of their signs. So I find that works really well, just transparency in different methods.
Okay. A couple of really quick things.
Because as you know, we learned at the awesome board member course that everybody took, or the ones that did, is the board members are the policy people. So come up with the policies and let the market manager enact them.
Thank you. So I was really looking forward to this session. As a market manager, I'm just looking for guidelines. I've learned a lot from what everybody's contributed. I actually love what Mary suggested. It seems just really simple. You know how we all have to have our vendors put up a sign if they make something at home, not made in a commercial kitchen. First Health comes by, if they don't have that sign, they'll hand you one of their copies. Well, just in the interim, until something where your idea of actually having terminology that's approved in, you know, standard policy, what if all of the other farmers, all of the conventional farmers, or no spray or organic practices, just have the same form, and Mary's thing with grown without the use of, so that opens the conversation. And then, boom, if you have an organic farmer who has something that may be too close to a neighbor's plot, might have some spray on it, they just have the same sign going, this was grown next door to my certified organic thing. Or it gives people with the same, as long as there's customer recognition where it's the exact same sign that everybody has, it's just filled in with their own thing.
Yeah, the worst thing anybody, especially farmers, and this is what I've been learning, farmers are actually a lot like fallers and logging. And I hear people say the word stubborn. Nobody wants to be regulated to death, but I can see the days of being a renegade farmer, faller, fishing, whatever it is, they're gone. They're gone. There has to be some sort of legislation. It doesn't have to be strenuous and handcuffing, but it has to be straightforward enough, and I think it has to be done by the board of directors, and it has to be enacted by the manager, because you're then going to get into a situation where, oh, well, so-and-so is using the word organic, but they're not certified, or, you know, on and on it goes. There is then no voice. So to have something like that enacted, I think, is great, but it has to be done by the markets.
I think everybody, you know, get together and just do it.
And to take James's idea and everybody collaborate together to come up with something that the markets agree on, and then the vendors, you know what, sorry, but this is our platform for everybody to share their product, and this is the way we've chosen to do it. You have to either agree and be here, or, you know, there's other alternatives, I guess, which those aren't good.
And we have had vendors leave the market because of our organic rules.
I think it was,
Feel free to contact me. Like I said, I share what we sent to our market. Happy to share the wording. And if it's the start of a conversation, I really encourage you to keep that conversation alive.
Thanks.